Thank you so much for joining. This is 10 Minute Tuesday with Say Cruz Eiler. This is episode 2. I got my sister on here when I be where I'm at without her, Chantilly Jaggernauth, who is the VP of BI Analytics at Lovelytics. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. So 10 Minute Tuesdays, 10 minutes. Let's get into it. So number one, introduce yourself.
All right, Chantilly Jaggernauth, head of BI and data analytics at Lovelytics. I'm also the CEO and founder of the nonprofit organization Millennials in Data. I'm a 4-time Tableau visionary, a 5-time Tableau ambassador. Yeah, 5 or 6 actually. I don't think I can count anymore. Kind of been in the BI and data analytics space for about 13 years now.
Wow, 13. Good grief, really?
Yeah.
13? Wow, that flies. Time flies. All right, so 13 years, you got a long time in it. So, what has been your least favorite job to date of that 13 years?
Of the 13 years, I would say my least favorite jobs or roles were the ones where you have someone who comes to you originally and says, "Hey, can I have your advice, your expertise, or help us with this project? And we want to learn more about design." And then it turns into more of a, "You're telling me exactly what to do. You want me to use 10 different colors for no reason when I told you we probably should limit it to 2 or 3 colors at most." So it goes from you no longer really care about my expertise. You just want the body to actually do the work.
Yeah.
So those are my least favorite projects because, I like to be on projects where I'm able to be of value and show my expertise and not just be a doer.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And golly, those are always the worst when you just hop on, just be like, "Hey, do what I want." Like, come on, like, we're the experts here.
Yeah, see what this is.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So, everybody has a journey 13 years in, but there was a point where you had a starting point. So what really compelled you to actually get into data? How did you get into your role? What made you just even get into it to begin with?
Probably the salary that I saw when I was in college. So I got into data analytics through a Google search for a college assignment I had to do back in 2010. I was in a class. The professor said, "Make sense of this data." The data set was too large to even try to use in Excel, and I ran into Tableau that night. And it was when like Tableau was just coming around and enterprises were starting to adopt it and go from whatever legacy system they were on and try to navigate into Tableau. And there were a lot of organizations that were looking for subject matter experts. So after I knocked out my assignment, I was like, all right, I really like this thing. I'm able to answer questions that I had of this. It was a movie ratings data set. I was able to find out like what genres were the best, which ones did males versus females like the most. And those were questions that I was able to like rapidly answer. And I've always been intrigued, to want to answer questions. And it just so happened that I ran into this tool that allowed me to answer questions really quickly. In the industry, data analytics was this new emerging thing. So I was like, all right, I could be a subject matter expert for this. And I saw the salary for it. I'm like, all right, this is going to be my thing. This will be my baby. And that's kind of when I learned everything that I could about data analytics, the space, taught myself some SQL, taught myself about databases and stuff, took more databases classes at Howard University. It was just that starting point at Howard.
Perfect. Howard, HBCU, love in the
Yes.
building. Love it. Awesome, man. So, you got your start, your VP. We heard the metrics earlier, we heard the numbers earlier, and you don't get to that point without having some type of stress or, we'll call it failures or mishaps, but they're not a failure because you fall forward. But when you consider what your biggest failure is, what do you think that is, and what did you actually learn from it?
My biggest failure actually hasn't been as within the data analytics field. My biggest failure was my first failure ever, I would say like in life, when I did not pass business law. Like up until that point, I was a 4.0 student. And I didn't, school wasn't hard to me, but it was just something about this one class that just did it for me. My first exam, I'll never forget, I made an 11, like 1-1.
Out of 100?
Out of 100.
What?
It was horrible. And I had a best friend who was really good at business law, but I think it was like my pride and my ego just didn't allow me to ask for help. And at the end of the semester, I ended up failing the class, and because I failed that class, I ended up like losing my scholarship and losing like honors and things like that. And it was my first failure in life. It didn't feel good, but the lesson that I learned from that was it's okay to ask for help. All right. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to, go to your professors or go to somebody who is an expert in that and get some coaching, get some advice. You don't know it all. That was when I learned that I do not know it all
Yeah.
in life, and definitely reach out to the people who do, and get that coaching.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's such a valuable lesson, man. You just you think you know it, and I got it. I'll figure it out. I'll outwork it. I'll put everything
Yeah,
into it. But it's like there's an easier path sometimes to raise your hand and be like, "Hey, I need help. Can you
I need
help me?"
help. Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing, definitely amazing lesson in that regard. So that happened with school. But one thing is, what's one lesson on your job that you think that you learned on the job, but everybody should learn at some point in their life?
Um, how to interact with different types of people, I would say. I think from a technical standpoint, I've always been like really good, but the soft skills standpoint, I had to learn over the 13 years. There in corporate America, you encounter different personalities. You encounter some of those know-it-alls, right? Especially when you're in the on the consultant side of things, it could be a little difficult because your clients are the ones that are paying the bills. So I would say like really early on, it took a lot for me to like learn myself and learn to how to interact with like other people in general.
Yeah, thanks for the validation on that. That was one of my earlier hurdles was how to interact with certain personalities, especially when you come in as the expert or the know-it-all. You're supposed to know this, but how do you interact with certain personalities when it's not a natural fit? So that was a lesson that I have.
Exactly.
So
Oh
definitely
yeah.
thanks for the confirmation. If nothing else, I got something big just from that, from that statement alone. So that's incredible. All right. So again, we all talked about starting points. You don't get to year 13 without starting somewhere. So, if someone's looking at this, they're just starting out in their data analytics journey, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone?
Find your niche. So for me, I fell in love with like the design aspect of Tableau. There are so many areas in data analytics that you can focus on, right? You could be a server admin, you can be somebody really strong with calculations, you can be somebody good with like geospatial analysis, coding. Find your niche, right? And for me, that was design, right? I love the creative aspect of it. And when you find your niche, find people who are also good at that. So that goes back to like asking for help. If this is the area that you want to focus on, look at the top 3 people who the community looks at or aspires to be like in that area and talk to them, right? Ask them about their journey, some tools that they recommend, maybe even collaborate with them, right? It's always good to find somebody you can collaborate with who has the accolades that you potentially want to have one day. So I would definitely say like find your niche and then give it your all. Very early on, I cut out distractions, right? I cut out the partying. I cut out like just a lot of the TVs, the video games really early on. And all of that extra time that I had, I used it to better my craft. And I could say 13 years later, it definitely paid off.
Love it, man. So many gems, so many gems. Always dropping gems every time we talk, even if it's through text, Slack, whatever. I'm always getting something from you. So thank you for putting me on game. All right, final question. Tell me about the most influential person in your life.
My grandmother since day one. It's like my best friend. My grandmother is an immigrant, and when you come from an immigrant family, you see things a little bit differently, right? You see them trying to live out that American dream and build something that they can pass on. So kind of instills something in you to want to give back to those who did so much for you, who came here to with a dream, like literally a dollar and a dream to do something for their family. So my biggest influencer is my grandmother because she's my why. She drives a lot of what I do today.
Wow, I love it. That's a great answer. She's an amazing person. Just hearing you talk about her, so her spirit shines super bright, and you and her influence is super bright. So I love that. All right, we are at the 10-minute mark. So appreciate
Yeah.
you so much. Final question. Well, the follow up to the final question: where can listeners find you online? Where can they go and get in contact with you, or just follow your brand?
Twitter at Shanjag, CHANJAGG, or through my nonprofit, millennialsandData.com.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. This was big. This was
Yeah,
huge.
thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. Love you, sis. Thank you so much.